The harsh world of Tarsh was teetering on the brink. Rumors had been spreading that the Jett Brigade was striking once again with a new band of lawless, inane murders. Now, the problem with this is you can't just go around saying that the bots can fly all of a sudden. Somebody had to discover the truth. It wasn't looking too hot. The second we dropped in, we were already at the gunship base. Clearly, the bots attacking this world had set up fast, and were already well versed in the art of flying about to and fro. Time to bring them crashing back down to Earth's what we thought. Give them the good old-fashioned Icarus lesson right and proper. I started moving, knowing that this hellbomb would take care of the base. I suppose at this about time I should introduce myself. I'm Quinn, the head detective the precinct's put on this case. I'm here to discover evidence and clues to see if anybody made it alive from the massacre the Jett Brigade has been storming upon this place. Joining me is a band that has a motley crew of impersonable but delinquent misfits. Godboard has been a long-time deputy, now turned full cadet of the force. They're an invaluable asset to the cause, and understand, even if they can't speak, how to communicate what needs to be done and where. The other two I haven't worked with that closely. The critical guy, that doesn't even sound like a name. The other one's just a Texan we'll refer to by the name of the Southerner. Certainly an oddball unit, but they're my oddball unit, and we're already getting into trouble. Knowing that somebody else is already pre-armed with the anti-tank gun known as the recoilless rifle, I set them out on a shredder tank. Unfortunately, these young bucks ain't used to listening yet, and despite my pleas to get them to actually aim for a tank with an anti-tank weapon, they focus out all the dropships, leaving them low on ammo already. Something that my machine gun could have more than taken care of. Me and this girl are more in tune and more reliant on each other than one of those mobsters with a Tommy. Now, I also have other weapons in my arsenal. The first of being this trusty old war crossbow, armed with a new explosive weaponry bolt. It can tear a hole through a man that's more than golf ball sized, and through a bot it can put a nasty dent in their facial armor, allowing them to be taken out in an effective recourse. We've got more of these fabricators to take care of. These things spew out tyrannical bots faster than you can say hallelujah. Which is exactly what I caught the Southerner saying to himself once we had taken care of this base. There was one last hulk sitting pretty there that I just decided to take care of before we went on our merry way to start getting the package up. The Southerner didn't really know how to manage such a complex piece of technology, dropping it on the floor instead of actually shooting it in the slot. Critical, noticing that critical error, ticked up the mantle, slotting it in. With that, we could activate the first of 2 uplink towers, allowing us to communicate with whatever was left in civilians to properly evacuate them. Arriving at the second one, I noticed we had some kind of heads-up display bug that was rampaging on the whole time we were there, saying bot drops were detected. Either the bots were constantly dropping things in for 2 or 3 minutes straight, or, well, as I suggested, the more likely outcome was the fact that our heads-up display was bugged on our helmets. The high ground wasn't doing the bots much good, and the barricades that were left behind were easily blown through with the explosive crossbow. However, there was this one jetpacker that was far too close for comfort to use an explosive weaponry. I switched to my trusty laser pistol and took it out. Even just a whiff of the laser can blast right through their jetpacks. Clearly not properly designed and in a prototype state, for I don't know how they managed to use such a technology. Rumor has it, and we've proven this with the intelligence that we've gathered, that the bots have stolen our updated jetpack technology. Slotting in the second of the 2 data drives, we now can properly connect with the interface. Though a harrowing thought presses through my mind.
One step closer to mission completion.
As the precinct up above gets a radio connection in with the civilians who are left, it seems that they've been jammed by a stratagem jammer. By a serendipitous stroke of my fortunate luck, it happens to have a fabricator close by. Exploding that is a lot easier, and with its explosion it'll take the stratagem jammer with it. There's a Hulk pressed towards us. I try shooting at it to stop it from taking out a teammate, and we've got a laser user who finishes off another rocket devastator. Primed and ready to go, we move on to our next objective, a larger base that we just drop a first set of barrages on.
Bot fabricator, west, 50 meters.
All of a sudden, wham! I'm hit like a boxer into the ropes. Thankfully, counting my lucky stars, I'm knocked into cover, so nothing can follow up on that mayhem. However, our luck is quickly running out as a factor strata closes in. Our AT user does a shoddy job of trying to take care of it, unsurprisingly. Starting to get real bothersome not having somebody who can reliably do their job. Fortunately, Box and I managed to push up and start shooting its juicy underbelly. It's not as effective as just rocketing it to the face if you can aim right. However, it still can get the job done in a pinch. And in a pinch it is in. Stuck between a rock and a hard place and constantly being bombarded by our EMS mortar. Most of the bots can't make it out from under it, and we can shred right through it, bit by bit.
Last reload!
As the unholy machine enters its death throes, I notice that we've still got one more fabricator to take out. I mark it, hoping that the AT user can at least do one thing right. As I try to find an opening to assist the rest of the team, they do manage to get it, and I immediately kick us into overdrive and head into the next base. This one, however, has a gruesome surprise for us. At the top of it is a detector tower, and despite my warnings of how to deal with it, the Southerner just immediately opens fire, getting C3 marked by it. I make a good use of my 120 barrage, which can blow up the damn thing before it can see any more of us. There is one downside to this situation though. When a detector tower spots you, unlike a bot drop which normally gets called in and follows the path of the bot that called it, the detector tower drops things right on top of you. We're now surrounded from at least 2 different flanks. Fortunately, the crossbow manages to blow up the jetpackers inside the hanging bays of the dropships, which takes out a large swath of them, leaving more room for us to open up on the heaviers with heavier weaponry.
Requesting sentry.
Sentry. Attacking north, 200 meters.
Despite seeing the EMS mortar strikes falling in from earlier, I double check just to make sure that that mortar's an EMS and not the automaton spy. I wipe the sweat from my brow, seeing that it is properly an EMS mortar that won't do anything other than keep you still. And then I notice a Hulk randomly melee. The first example of which that I've seen throughout this mission. However, what will soon be a common sight. As we roll into the bunkers the civilians should be holed up in, the situation looks even dire. The whole area is a ghost town, and none of the terminals to open up the shuttle door seem to be working. We move in, looking for any clues, and our AT user finally gets a nasty headshot in a factory strata. I ask Box to check the terminal, and the news is most dark and most grim. There's practically nobody left to evacuate. A lot of the non-bunker based buildings in the area already destroyed. We need to get the word out about what happened here, about the atrocities. The rest of the group decides that they want vengeance, heading for the fortress. However, I know that there's more important things than vengeance. There's the truth. Because only the truth can stop these tragedies from repeating themselves. While vengeance is just an Ouroboros that constantly is biting itself in an endless loop of tyranny. And that's exactly what the bots want to reduce us to. So we won't let that happen.
Found something. Their sample acquired.
I spot some curiosities. Scoop them up and put them in my intel bag to save for later. They might be important for this case. However, they could also just be standard space gunk. Like everything else on this godforsaken world, it's run with bots. The radar tower itself is down. Somebody must have intentionally lowered it, as you need a fingerprint to be able to actually access the terminals. There's a few rocket walkers who give me a run for my money, and another one of these hulks that's randomly swinging in melee. I still don't know what's up with them, but I will find out the truth, even if it costs me my life. The bots think of themselves as stone-cold killers. However, I'm about to prove them wrong by warming them up with a fiery explosion as they go out. The radar tower shouldn't be too hard to set up by myself, and should give us some valuable intel in the area, while also allowing us some more intel uplink to report more of this to the wider fleet. Now, Darsh has always been a hard environment to live on, but no one here deserves what happened to them. It doesn't matter if the non-existent streets have always been lawless. However, they've been streets that many have begun to call home.
Requesting sentry.
As the terminal finishes its boot up sequence, it seems the radar dish was only slightly askewed. Fixing the problem, I move on. As the squad starts to head out, I take care of one more loose thread. In this unraveling yarn of a case, we find some kind of facility. I don't know what they were doing for it, but some of the samples in the area reek of human blood. It's not a good sign. Deciding that command says it should be exploded, I deliver what can only be the largest bomb in our arsenal. A deployed hell bomb is sure to take care of whatever was left there. It's now time for us to hightail it. I throw a Gatling barrage and a stun to take care of most of what's in the area, while leaving my laser pistol to swap over whatever jetpackers try to maul me. The team covers me, allowing me to safely get away. We're all in a good position to get out of here with our lives. Another mission well done, but the case is far from over. We still have to understand exactly how the bots were able to do this, and deliver a form of justice and repentance against them. This'll be their penitence. They'll learn a thing or two about not to mess with the righteous yoke of humanity. C3 finally takes the opportunity to use his AT rocket. Unfortunately, the delirium of combat has made him try to shoot down our own allied Pelican. We still managed to make it out alive. Sadly, one of the members of our squad needed to make an emergency transfer to another district. I lamented this fact, as we would now have to work harder to find either a replacement or try to manage with a group of 3. We decided in the beginning to try the group of 3 setup. We had already done this mission decently well. Let's continue to prove our worth with another round of finding these clues. I sent him my business card and contact information on the off chance that we ever saw him or needed him again. Then, we headed back down to investigate another area, and I searched for these callous murderers to bring them to justice. We first had to find a data archive upload left behind by a previous group. We needed to launch a cache of intel that would blow this case so wide open and so violently that no one could ever deny the unalienable truth that we portrayed on that case. Now, this would be no easy task. We would need to go to multiple areas and collect evidence and properly utilize and set up the missile of democracy information to launch. Now, collecting this cash was the easy part. It was a simple swindling job of pressing in and pressing out, and at this moment I encountered another one of those wild, ravenous, rampaging hulks. I still don't know what was exactly wrong with them, but I had a gut feeling that in this mission we would be able to find out. I sent out a beacon to let the precinct know that we needed another transfer on this case. Clearly, if one group failed to do it, we needed to have our full manpower of the squad on hand to unearth this truth. A flaming hulk almost makes me feel what it feels like to be an alpha commander on the butt end of a flamethrower. Fortunately, my most trusted companion takes it out with a single well-placed railgun shot as I hit the deck, stop, drop, and roll. We then have another, which I stunned to set up for them to take out as well, as more and more bots swarm in around us, desperate for that reinforcement to pop up any time now, as we could use the manpower at this point. Things were getting quite desperate as we engaged another base at the same time, swarming with the hordes of rampaging, impetuous, repulsive hulks, not to mention their motley crew of rocket walkers to assist. Fortunately, those sidekicks go down quite easily, toppling over, and a pathetic display of lack of proper engineering design. We were then joined by a less than reputable man with a less than reputable name that was clearly just a fake. It'd be like teaming up with a guy named Rob Banks. Does not bode well for business. Clearly a stingent working with the automaton mob. I couldn't, under any circumstance, let any evidence of him ever being in our precinct or on this case stand. It would be like throwing one bad apple into the flawless pie that was the archives of the precinct. It would mess up the whole lot of cases, rotting down our reputation to the very core, and building that trust back up for our clientele, well, that would be a steeper clip to climb than to fall. Fortunately for once, the commissioner wasn't out of his goddamn mind and agreed to my request for a transfer. He sent me this young greenhorn instead, a pal by the name of Jin. He didn't seem like he knew how to handle himself yet, but he was better than any other option they could have given us at the time. I looked into his background and, well, freshly graduated, clearly has no kind of bad reputation on him, clearly a man of good taste. Deciding to put my lone wolf mentality to the side, I made sure to probably thank him for his time on the case, setting a good first impression to force for him. Speaking of blowing things wide open, these fabricators on our list of agenda to maintain a low profile was, well, we're about to experience the just hand of liberty firsthand. I said hand twice in the same sentence. Makes me sound like a little bit of a simpleton. But honestly, you gotta keep things simple for these greenhorns. Gotta make sure they get learn the ropes before they get thrown out of the ring. Taking a look at my radar, I realized that unnatural square shape in the land's formation. Realizing that such a thing must be man-made, I ran over towards it, trying to figure out what it was. Upon recognizing the fact that it was a SAM site, I realized some new owners had taken over the place. I don't know what nefarious plans they had for the joint, but it could not stay within the mechanical hands of tyranny, and I worked to liberate. One of them nearly takes my life, but I stemmed through it, relying on the power of liberty to see me through and to find the truth of this case. Another jumps over towards me, but gets lasered down by my sidearm. More and more of the now found owners of this place try to take out me and my squad. I keep a level head, focused on getting this thing back up into order for Super Earth. After getting the thing online, I communicate to the rest of the squad that there's been another one of these weird hulks meleeing constantly. Shooting its back out and relying on the fact that it burned to death, I'd switch ahead to taking care of the gas station. We've got another one of those rampaging hulks. It manages to come to its senses enough to start shooting at me, but I blast it before it can properly react. I notice another one off in the trees, even more unsettling the last. Every single one of these popping up. I don't know what's exactly causing it, but at this point, it's honestly quite terrifying to see. But fear is merely the mind killer, and bravery is the ability to fight on through that fear. A shockwave of one of their explosive detonations sends me flying backwards off the terminal. The greenhorn proves his bravery by taking to the stand of the terminal. Like a president taking his inaugural oath, he works through the speech flawlessly, managing the pipes in the proper position to get the element 710 flowing to the proper launch site. Proving himself like this earned him some recognition, and with that recognition came confidence. He became a more integral part of the team with that day, taking the initiative to turn one of the valves himself as well, moving quick, like that spry young buck he is.
Mission progress logged.
The bots had set up another storehouse in the middle of the woods, full of illicit contrabands. We blew the place to smithereens like the last few. This one, however, had something more threatening. They had set up a proper turret encampment at the top, one that was actually in a good position to turn what probably once was a pleasant little cabin in the middle of the jungle to a proper hothouse. We rained death down upon it as they attempted to do the same to us, but our death was deadlier because it was guided by the hand of managed democracy, and democracy never falters with its arsenal of weaponry to maintain the peace of these lands. The boys of the precinct were happy. Often the boys stuck doing paperwork in the back rooms are so annoyed with the current state of things. The paperwork mind-numbing bullshit boggling their minds down to their cores. We had a generator in front of us, and it seemed like this too had been overtaken by the robotic scourge. I found dead bodies of the CFAF members, both brutally murdered. More evidence to add to this cause. More illicit substances that they were harboring. We taught those tin cans the only lesson they ever deserved to know. How to die like the cowards that they are. That's what makes them so deplorable. The fact that they can't even feel fear. That's what makes them so unnatural, unhuman. Realizing we had to do another better job of taking care of their bases, I found another one of those rampaging hulks. It knocked me unconscious for just a short moment, and the rest of the team finished the job as I woke myself back up again. The oddities of its movement patterns really took me for a loop. However, with that first-hand experience, we got those titanium tin cans red-handed in the act of rampaging about uncontrollably. There was no doubt in my mind now. It must have been the work of some foul play of sorts. Almost every single one of the ones that we had encountered were acting so strangely. Something had riled them up, and it was about time we figured out what. It was then I spotted one of their most vile machinations. A bioprocessing facility. Like a vampire They suckled upon the ichor of human flesh and blood. It was so vile, so cruel, it almost made the greenhorn throw up in his helmet. He stifled it down like a true hero, and we spilled that blood so they may never drink from its ichor again, putting this message with lead sign to every one of them, and to ensure that they couldn't lick from the earth any of the remains of that righteous, democratic blood. We ensured to burn all of it to smithereens, so that way no bot nor traitorous wretch could ever defile the sanctity of a human ever again. We then spotted yet another one of their monstrosities, a mortar base raining hellfire down of its own. We worked together to push towards it, past a roving mechazoid factory strata. We knew that we had to move quick, as the longer we stood still, the more likely a mortar would directly impact us. Seeing that the cannons in the precinct on high had reloaded, I decided to give that base a taste of its own medicine by raining down some hellfire of our own. The sky was alight with rapid shots and jetpackers flying in. The Jett Brigade proved that they were no joke that day. However, I certainly was laughing through maniacal laugh about how puny and tiny and insignificant they were. To think that they would steal our jetpacking technology only to fail at the one most important thing, keeping the jetpack durable enough that it doesn't just explode at the faintest breath of a laser. Then blasting through one more buggy software bug-ridden hulk. My associates and I then headed for the Automaton Fortress, a stronghold of information in which they may have the key to the secrets of the Jett Brigade murders. Now, we were at the perfect position and heading in the perfect direction to do this and our main objective of the mission. So, we pushed up towards the billowing blooms of smoke and took the high ground, sneaking around the bots from behind and taking them all by surprise. We utilized our barrages to lay waste to everything mechanical within the area. Command worked out a long time ago that if you tell when a diver's liberated many enemies from this plane of existence in rapid succession, telling them the exact number is an excellent stim for morale. The hand of liberty takes 65 in a blink. This grunt work not often utilized by a venerated detective such as myself. However, I did notice another mysterious case of hulks, and they're swinging wildly, as if by some demonic possession trying to wrangle with the demon and taking a hold of the mechanical body they inhabited. Knowing that the rest of the team would have a hard time dealing with the mechanical behemoths, I took them down with stuns and fervor. It was then that I glimpsed it out of the corner of my eye that no one was being able to take care of the automaton threat in the form of the factory strata. Knowing that this threat must be eliminated in order to turn in that reward of evidence, I knew that the only way to solve this problem was to fill it full of lead. As I've yet to meet one who can outsmart Bullet, it fell before us in a fireball of passion. With that behemoth of metal down, we had now had to focus our mind on the rest of the base. I told the boys in the precinct to stop barraging on a certain spot that had another automaton fabricator, and eventually ended up destroying it. My comrades decided to flaming barrage a set of wood that I imagined had tons of bots in it. I trusted their judgment call and pushed down the hill to start moving to our next sub-point. I hear the whirring up sound of a turret. It takes out the greenhorn, knocking him off his feet. I swear vengeance upon it and run to go deliver justice well deserved to it. However, as justice is best served cold, it seems that we're raising a warm glass tonight. As the rookie gets back on his feet and smashes down onto the turret properly, I find the drop-off delivery zone for launching the cache intel. However, it too is swarming with mechanical aberrations. In the meantime, the rest of the group finds another type of cache within the fortress and resolves to start moving around to get it towards our extraction point after we take care of the boomerang missile. Now, there were a few complications. First off, somebody had left the door locked, so we had to manually pry that thing open. Additionally, with the power and fuel on, somebody actually had to tell the rocket, "Hey, you Dumbo," because it's not smart like those damn automatons seem to think that they are, letting the machine do the work for you. How asinine. How utterly ridiculous of an idea. So, I input the codes into the terminal that we learned from earlier to properly upload all of our data into this thing. Now, the evidence we had here was more than enough to state why Hulks were acting so crazy. It was after suckling upon the blood of humans, and why the Jett Brigade had committed the murders that they did with absolute, undeniable, unalienable, unequivocally truth that no court could ever find them innocent. They would be brought before the hand of justice, and the hand of justice would be brought down upon them. Now, this is the point where one of my associates suggested me to take on the idea of moving through the trees and taking out the bot's counterintelligence site, jamming our signals and making everything all wonky. We couldn't let that stand. If our evidence got scrambled by this thing, then all that work and everyone who bled for it would all be in vain. We had to ensure that this operation went off without a hitch, so we pushed up towards it. There was a lone guard I walked up behind and blasted before I could tell anyone else we were here silently with my laser pistol. This trusty thing makes practically no noise as it delivers a fiery hot beam directly into the eyes of our enemies. Now, the second one was a little more precarious of position. I decide, in a rare but always possible brief error in judgment, to focus on taking out the base before the bot. He alerts the whole thing, and it swarms like a hornet's nest. I'm pushed away from the group and separated. I then am stuck in an awful position, having to fight off swarms of bots between two sets of petrified trees known throughout the Harsh region. Now, this, on its own right, is fine, a situation I've pulled myself out of many times before. The issue is the fact that jetpackers swarm in from all around me, causing more and more bots to attack me from more and more directions. I decide to just pick a direction and run, and unfortunately, none of my squad mates picked the same direction, separating us ever further. Knowing that we have to do something, anything, to focus on finishing off the rest of our mission, so that way we can collect all the evidence that we can to fully load this case with requisitioned intel. I push into yet another base. My trusty crossbow can take out the first of the fabricators at it, and then I'm forced to push around the side into another one. Unfortunately here, I'm pinned down by even more bots, and one with a similar accuracy modifier to the same one as earlier strikes me down. As I lie there, I think about what they'll do to me, what they'll do to my body. Something that should only be reserved back into the Earth like a proper true citizen of Super Earth. Unfortunately, I did not get to become fuel for one of democracy's many fields. Unfortunately, I have to live to fight another day. The team pushes up back into the base and administers me medication to put me back over the brink. Now on this side of death's door, I fight on with a renewed vigor. I take out one of their encamped towers, knowing that it could pose a threat to us later on as we try to exit the area if we don't take care of it while we're under its gun depression. Unfortunately, the area where my weaponry was dropped is now swarming with hordes of bots. Knowing that it'll be a tough nut to crack, like a pistachio, we must press ever onwards into the fray, without fear even of our own explosive crossbow bolts knocking us backwards. For we are Helldivers, and this is just another goddamn day on the job.
Proceed to extraction when ready. Package fire! Extraction shuttle in
Upon hearing command utter those words, I am left utterly gobsmacked, confused, and bewildered. Extraction is beginning, but we're not anywhere near there. Sure, Pelican can be a patient man. To help, wait, and hold off the hordes just long enough to make brilliant escapes. However, we've got 3/4 of the team in position, still blowing up this base. As we push around the corner, I say to hell to it. If I die, I die. Another soldier fighting for truth and freedom. I help support my ally who's down and wounded, and move around this corner again, focusing on taking care of the last fabricator. They've dropped a good amount of evidence there, and we're going to have to go to collect it. But we must take out this base first. The help of his laser guides a shining gilded light upon the enemies, allowing me to properly and thoroughly destroy them with light of victory at our hands. I tell the boys in the precinct to launch another one of their barrages to focus down everything around the bunker as I blow up the last stronghold they have. But there's one more spot in this area. I asked to see if the one with the jetpack can get up there and get a higher vantage point to hold them off from the high ground. Unfortunately, he's frozen in fear and stops listening to me. Knowing that sometimes that's just how it goes, I charge with reckless abandon. I don't care if that shuttle leaves me behind. I don't care if these nerds can't get off their asses in the precinct and prove themselves. I don't care if I die a martyr. I just know one thing, that this package, this evidence has been delivered, and I shall carry back the archives to the precinct, so that way they may write down every nook and cranny detail. Another frenzied Hulk runs out of steam just in front of me. Another Devastator falls to a rapid deliverment of crossbow bolts. Another Rocketeer tries to knock me off my feet, and I quickly get back up to press into it. Another Rocket Walker runs up over the hills, but it's all a vain struggle for the tin cans, as every single one of them falls before me. I move around into cover, knowing that this might be my last holdout, as the other two abandon me for the slime to head to extract. I know, in my heart of hearts, that this is not a malicious call. However, I also know that things will only get harder from here. Liberty guides me. As I move around to deliver another barrage to this base, I realize that I'm stuck between a hard wall and a robotic base. I know that this is no place for fear. However, I will not let it take hold of me. I will not go down without a proper fight. I set up behind their own wall and start blasting it from this side with my own Liberty-based machine gun. They throw a nade over, and I throw it right back at them. These bots don't even know how to cook a nade properly. Another two jetpackers push up into me, and as I'm trying to take care of another thing set into cover, I'm blindsided by the fact that my teammates are once again restarting the shuttle to leave me. I don't know if it was an intentional choice on their part just to give me a little bit more time to secure this evidence, or if they're really just trying to rub it in my face. Regardless of the outcome, I know that I'm running out of time here, and out of supplies to keep myself in this fight. I'm out of stims, and despite the fact that I'm good on ammo, I've only got one more stun to give myself the kind of room I need to reload my heavy machine gun. As more shots slowly start to whittle me down, it's hard to find an opening that I can take through this ground. As another one rounds the corner, the heavy devastator hits me just through the wall. I just don't even know anymore. I must be hallucinating. Nothing's making sense. Nothing's going my way. And as one rocket pops me up and over, I almost get blasted out of the sky by a horde of fire. They try to add insult to injury by summoning another bot drop on me, of all people. Maybe my teammates are gone already. Maybe I'm the only one still fighting here. I called in the precinct boys to try and help me out again, and well, they listen at least. They shred through another overgrown hunk of junk needy for the righteous bullets of liberation. At that moment, I look to my scanner and realize that I can drop in another set of supplies on myself without ruining my teammates' chances of getting out of here. I set up with those supplies and know that I must now make one last ditch effort to get out of here in a timely manner. The supply pack hits the ground and I instantly book it, hitting the ground with it. I stim up just in case any stray stragglers manage to hit me with an even strayer bullet. And that's when I realize that there's still more heavy devastators about. I shoot them down to clear a path out of here. You can't even stim through them for that long if they get lucky with their headshots. I push up the hill. Cresting over the top of the hill, I realize there is even less friendlies about than I thought. Bots swarm over the trees. But I spot an opening. On the floor, not only is there a set of more samples, more evidence to collect, but also a jetpack. That's when I make my move. I pack up with one of my last supply pack uses after spamming since so much and head off towards greener pastures. Landing meters away from the objective, I round everyone up telling them I'm here. I thank them for waiting me. I thank Box for holding the line. I thank that greenhorn for standing firm like a proper detective. He's gonna get some places, that greenhorn. I also think that the Southerner helps out with clearing a path. He runs down to pick up the special sample from the fortress. That piece of intel will be vital as a high-value pickup, and I start the call for us to all get the hell out of here with our lives. In the end, we were victorious, able to secure everything on the whole map, even with the awful conditions of Tarsh. I've been Quinn, your lone detective, and this has been another case solved. One down, millions more to go. Those damn bots were utilizing human blood to drive themselves crazy, to harness even more power. And they were harnessing human spirit through our jetpacks, turning them into something mind-boggling. A jetpack that doesn't even care for the life of their user. And in the end, I proved them why the life of users is so important, why the life of humanity itself is so important. That having a soul, by having grit, anything is possible, even through the fear. And that is what being an ace detective is all about.